Hello, welcome to the Ultimate Fighting Chat podcast. This is a chat for UFC Fight Night on ESPN, Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland for the main card this time. That's the discussion we're going to have. Are you happy for me to go straight into the first fight on the main card?
Yep, get it over with. Let's get
Okay.
this thing done.
Okay, well, I'm not because I thought maybe you've got a bit of info for me, but I just thought there was a bit more meat on the prelims and not much going on. I'm not discussing whether the fights are good or bad. Just saying, name wise, it seemed a bit topsy turvy to me, and the prelims seemed a bit, I don't know, a bit more meaty than the main card. Was it? What was missing? Was there stuff missing? Anything major?
Well, I told you that Kyung Ho Kang versus Rani Yaya was supposed to be
Anything major?
I think Kyung Ho Kang's all right, isn't he?
So 50% of it is not all right.
Yeah, that was cancelled just beforehand. Yaya had COVID. This was one of those cards that kind of went through quite a lot of changes and this, that, and the other. Perez versus Askarov was scheduled originally for this event. Duho Choi was,
the Wonder Boys, Korean Wonder Boy or something, isn't it?
Superboy. He was supposed to fight Danny Chavez, but obviously we got a more than adequate replacement in Kamaka because he put on a good scrap.
Great.
Dorcas versus Abdurakhimov as well. I mean, so it was one that there was quite a lot of
changes.
Yeah, changes and sort of.
But nothing major.
I think if you took off Strickland versus Hall, and you just took the 4 fights that were below it, so Shayna Bays versus Gloria Paula, Jared Gordon versus Stoltz, Bagdasarian versus Anglin, and Witt versus Barberena. And if you compared that to the 4 fights on the prelims, I don't think you'd have been able to tell which was the main card or the prelims. They're all pretty much of a level.
Yeah.
And so it was weird.
Absolutely.
It didn't feel like there was a main card until we got to the main event. So
correct.
Yeah.
No bother for us because obviously we just watch the fights regardless and don't really matter. But I agree. If people are going to separate these things and go, here's the prelims or the warm-ups and then here's the main card, I didn't get that feeling with this. You know, there was no more fanfare with it. It was just like 2 loads of prelims, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was no real star power. The Strickland versus Hall, you know, both those guys are well known, been in the UFC a long time. So they've got a sort of element of star power amongst, let's just say, the hardcore of the fan base. You know, the average guy on the street won't know who they are. But I definitely was interested in that fight, wanted to see that fight, thought it was a good matchup, etc. But the rest of it was a little bit like, meh, you know, I don't really, not that excited about it. But as you know, sometimes that can produce the most exciting events, the most exciting fights.
That's exactly right. And
we'll find out whether it did in a minute, right?
So let's go. Brian Bam Bam Barberena versus Jason the Vanilla Gorilla Witt. All right, well, crap.
Do you want to be a little bit more specific, or
it's just a saggy, breathed out, no skills fight that just took ages because it was a decision of saggy, no skills. I think I've just about got enough breath to throw another punch, and yeah, it weren't very good.
Well, this actually won Fight of the Night. So that you're obviously not.
Maybe I'll start this again. Yeah,
you're not on the same wavelength as the fans. I personally preferred. To me, there was very similar. The Grutzmacher versus Garcia fight was similar in its style, if you like, to this Witt versus Barberena one.
Yeah,
it just seems though that the Grits Garcia one didn't have the. Some people would prefer, I think, the extra added bits of drama in the Witt and Barberena one. But to me, I didn't. I preferred Grits versus Garcia because the drama from Witt Barberena came about from the fact that they were both so shagged out that you could have pushed either one of them over at one stage. I think Barberena was definitely in better nick come the end of the fight than Witt. It was in his gum shield when the ref hadn't agreed to stop, you know.
Yeah, what was that?
And almost getting knocked out from it. It kind of just turned into a real sloppy slugfest. that a lot of people do like.
I know they do.
And in many ways, you could argue it was a fun fight. It had some drama, had some.
Yeah, it's better than a boring fight, isn't it? If you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but it's just personally, it's not my kind of the kind of fight that I particularly enjoyed, just because it was just a bit too scrappy, just a bit too sloppy for my liking. You
well,
know,
this
it
is
was
the
like you
thing.
say, it's definitely better than them just having a boring 29, 28, 30, 27
Oh yeah,
odd takedown here and there, low level boxing match. It was definitely way better than that. Instant
absolutely.
drama, but it was also a little bit like, come on, guys, you know, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
yeah. What you've been doing in the gym?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
You
it
did
is a
know that
bit.
this fight was 3 rounds, didn't you?
Yeah, look, there's a place for this kind of stuff.
The
People
regional
like it.
circuit.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
People like it, don't they? And that's understandable. I do get why it's a good fight to compare the grits one, but for me, the grits one was like a bloke with no skills against a bloke with skills, and the no skills bloke overcoming that, and this was double no skills,
Obviously, both these guys have got skills, but I know what you're saying. You know,
rough
for this level,
skills.
yeah. Well, look, that Barbarina, that really is his. You know, you have the little bullet points before they get into the cage. There's usually 3 of them. You know, jiu-jitsu black belt, Muay Thai world champion, those kind of things. If you're an elite level fighter, with Bam Bam, it is stuff like chin, toughness, durability. Those are his qualities. And you know
Yeah,
what? They're not to be underestimated. Like with Elkins, like with Grits, they can get you over the line. They can get you wins.
but that's
But
why I'm saying skill. There's like you say, those things will get you. They'll get you far. They'll get you in the sport. They'll win your fights. They'll give you certainly get you popularity and fans. That's for sure.
yeah,
Just for me, you got the commentators and that guy nuts, and I weren't, because the reason these shots and punches and back and forths were getting in is because these guys just decided to stop defending themselves and go, well, it don't matter because hopefully this punch will reach his head before his one reaches mine. It was just a bit crappy. All right.
and obviously that also happens through sort of extreme fatigue and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, and it,
What, right from
I mean,
round one? All right, okay, no worries.
well, look, that's what I was going to say. It wasn't exactly a hell of a pace in round one. You know, not to the level where I thought, blimey, these guys need to calm down, otherwise they're going to be breathed out by round
All
three.
right.
They just got to round three, and they were both absolutely, I
Yeah.
mean, just
Yeah.
barely move. So Barbarina not so bad. I think Barbarina had some more gas in the tank, and I think if it was a 5 round fight, Barbarina wins it easy. But it wasn't so tough. Even though
Right.
it's fight of the night, it weren't my fight of the night. It was
No,
shy.
mine neither. And you know, MMA is mixed martial arts, and I didn't see much martial arts. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? But it ain't all I'm saying. I've said quite a bit.
Yeah,
And mate, yeah, maybe I should stop. Maybe.
yeah, I think so. Before you get yourself into some trouble.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry, boys. Yeah, well, you know, it's, like I said, there's worse. There's worse on the card. Don't worry. Oh, is there? Yeah, no, there ain't really. Oh no,
I
yeah.
think so.
I don't think there is. Yeah, I don't think there is. But yet you're the fight of the night. So fair play to you. So that was that fight. That was a decision win to Wit. So look, it was all right. Definitely didn't hate it. Wasn't bored or anything like that. So there's way worse fights. But that's enough of that. The next fight is Colin Anglin versus Melsik Bagdasarian. Now, this is the sort of fight where I'm talking to you about. When I say fight, the names I'm talking to you about, where I went, well, I've never heard of Colin Anglin for starters, right? I ain't saying he's crap. I'm just talking about this is a main card fight, paper version, just talking about the fighters that made me go, what's this one then? Because it's the next, it's above Barbarina, for example, who's a known bloke. Yeah. Whether you like him or
Yeah,
not, doesn't matter. Still a known bloke, right? He's a fan favorite.
yeah.
So I do
He's had a few good scraps, Barbarina,
telling you,
and
yeah.
he's pulled out a few decent results. So yeah, like you say, this one you just kind of went. Well, as far as I'm aware, I think Bagdasarian came through the Contender Series, but this was his actual full debut, so to speak. And
Right.
the same for Anglin. I think he was maybe a short notice replacement, but this was his debut, I believe, in the UFC as well. So these are two guys who we never heard of before, and they're only a couple of fights away from being the co-main.
There you
Now,
go.
I'd get that if it was, I don't know, Ryan Garcia's MMA debut versus Oscar De La Hoya. I'd get it, right? Two
Yeah.
debuting guys get on the main card, but it wasn't. So yeah, it was just a little bit strange, this card. I think
Yeah,
it really got decimated.
it
By
felt
COVID.
weird. Yeah, it felt weird.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the fight because honestly, I thought the fight was brilliant. I liked it. It was good. No, I liked it. I always was a good fight. This guy, this Bagdasarian bloke, this is a wild animal. He needs taming. If you're going to beat this guy, he needs, I don't know, wrestling. He needs tiring out. This guy is he's an animal. So there's no doubt about it. This guy is real horrible grief. Leave me alone. Okay, I've had enough. I don't want to have a fight anymore. You really need to be a bit of a grits on him and get in there. I don't know, and dirty box him, push him up against the fence, drag him to the floor. You've got to do something to him because if you leave this bloke where he wants to be, you're in big trouble. Because I think this Colin Anglin bloke looked good. I don't think he was crap. I think he was quite good. He's definitely a good fighter, a good martial arts bloke, no doubt about it. But let me tell you this. If you stand in kicking range with someone that can kick and you just have no defense, you just put your right hand down, you're going to get your head kicked off. And this guy can kick. And Anglin stood in kicking range for way too long, and that was definitely going to happen. He already tested it out. Bagdasarian tested out this range already with some 1-2s, some jab crosses, and some heavy straight lefts, right, to that side, punches that got in enough to make him know that that side was open. Because it weren't long after that where he just, again, got in that kicking range, saw him standing there with his hand down like this and went, no worries. If you're going to give that to me, I'm taking it. And he just whipped that kick up there, fast as out, and smashed his head off with it. It was a good kick and all. It was fast. Technique was amazing. Turned his foot right over. It was good. It was good. Hard doing them sort of things on pads when you've got all the time in the world. This guy done it in a fight. Now, it did look like he had all the time in the world. It did kind of look a bit slow motion-y. Bad by Anglin. He's going to watch this and go, what did I expect? Now, if I was here, that wouldn't have worked. If I was here, that wouldn't have worked. But standing there in perfect kicking range with no defense, terrible idea. It was a good performance by that Bagdasarian, but if it don't work, is he going to be able to do that kind of thing for 5 rounds? He uses a hell of a lot of energy, puts everything into everything in that fight I've seen anyway. He just went mad with it, and it worked out for him in this instance. But I can see it going against him at some point. And what I will say is, it's a win for Edmund. No, I saw him in the corner getting all excited. Does he get every Armenian person?
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, I mean, if you're Armenian, I think Edmund's got it on lockdown, hasn't he?
Seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah.
What you were saying there about with the kicking range, you've either got to be all the way in or all the way out, right? You see it a lot of the time when people fight Barboza. Now what they do is they try that overly aggressive style. They try to close the distance so much that he doesn't have the space for his kicks. They try and really put him on the back foot, get him tight up against that fence to take away those kicks. Like I say, you've either got to be all the way in or all the way out. You can't just be almost... If that guy was kicking in the gym, he would basically have put Anglin in that area and said, hold the pads up for me there, and he'd have booted him. So
it's like training, yeah. It's like training. But it was a fight. It gave him plenty of time. He just stood there and went, I've got loads of time to think about this. All Anglin had to do was either move in, out, left or right, or 45 degrees back. Any of those places, a second before that, he wouldn't have got done. I don't know what he was doing standing there because there was no sign of any attack either. I don't know what he was doing.
I think Anglin... I actually thought he was decent as well. You mentioned you thought he was quite good.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know Bagdasarian's good, right? We don't really need to cover him anymore. You've given him his praise, but I thought Anglin was decent. He sort of didn't look afraid to go in there and have a smash. This guy obviously is quite intimidating, obviously very powerful, and Anglin didn't bottle it. Didn't look like he was just sitting there waiting to be knocked out. He looked like he was there to compete.
I'm going to give some back, right? He was trying to give as good as he was getting.
Yeah, and he looked physically fit, competent enough. So, he looked decent enough. So he'll get another shot, obviously. But, Bagdasarian booted his head off, and I don't know what else you want me to say about it, really. He moves on. Anglin. Oh, well, the only thing I want to say about Anglin, and he's got to be Ingers. He's got to be English who's settled over in America. His family settled over there a year, a generation ago or what have you. You do not get Americans called Colin Anglin. You just don't. Americans do not have names like Colin Anglin. When I heard his name, I went, "Oh, we've got an English guy on this one, have we?" And he was American, and I was like, even his face is English. He's English. He needs to do a family tree. He's English.
Yeah, maybe he'll find out when he does the family tree that he's Anglo-Saxon. No good.
We'll leave it for there, shall we? Let's move on to the next one. That's one of my crap jokes.
Next fight though is Niklas Green Mask Stolze from Germany versus Jared Gooden. Jared Night Train Gooden. I know what I think of it, but let's go. It was knockout in round 1. Let's have it. Give me your thoughts.
I haven't got any thoughts on it really. All I'm going to say is that whole choo-choo thing was getting on my nerves after.
Hated it.
Yeah, really, really annoying me. It wasn't one where I went, "Oh, he's got a cool gimmick." I was just like, "Oh, shut up."
Well, it made me feel like I was supposed to know something that I didn't, that I wasn't privy to something, but I'm not sure that it was. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
When he did it to the commentary team and stuff like that, and I'm like,
yeah,
is this guy known for being a bloke who drives trains or something? I mean, this just sounds well crap.
It's like, well, look, choo-choo, anyone can say that, but choo-choo MF, that's mine. That is mine, and you ain't having it. It's too late. I've taken it. It was poor. How about that?
Yeah, I didn't like that, but he obviously got the win. KO, round 1. Only took him just over a minute. That's his first win in the UFC. Lost his first 2. Don't know if you remember, he had a real scrappy affair with Alan Jouban. I think that was Alan Jouban's retirement fight. He just lost out decision on that one. That was a pretty tight fight. I haven't really got too much to say about this fight other than the Stolze kind of a little bit like Anglin, just stood there ages to get his face punched and punched it a lot. And he kind of went down. I thought Stolze looked all right, as in he looked like to throw strikes. He didn't look, he didn't look starstruck by the event. What is it? What do they call it? Stage fright and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he looked okay, shaped up okay, moved about okay. Stood too long there. Actually say got punched. And
he got smashed out in round 1. But like you say, I think he looked like he's a good fighter, even though he got mashed. The punch was weird. And if you remember it, it kind of sort of curled over. I think it was not necessarily bad technique. It looked like a bad technique. It looked like a crappy right hand. But I think that Stolze's fist got in the way. I think it kind of changed the trajectory of it. And it didn't matter anyway, right? It just went over and smashed him in or whatever. So, yeah, brilliant.
Look, it's probably a must-win fight for him. So maybe that's why he was so over the moon, so hyped, and that's why Mother Effort came out so much.
It gave him the opportunity to show us his thing, the choo-choo. He hasn't been able to do it before.
Yeah. He keeps losing.
And I've got to quickly kind of trademark it like I'm the first one to say this. Before anyone else says this, for God's sake, win a fight so that I get the mic, that I can say it. Yeah. Please.
I bet you Corey Anderson felt like that when he came up with Beast in 25-8. He must have been sitting there going, I hope no one else gets this before I get a chance to put it on national TV.
Yeah.
Because it's brilliant.
The next fight then, this is the... Let's call it how it is. Let's call it the co-main event. So if we're going to say, it's kind of strange to have someone called Colin Anglo-Saxon on the card that we've not heard of. If we're going to say that, then I'm going to say that the co-main event of Cheyenne Bays versus Gloria De Paula, I'm also going to say a bit of a strange co-main event, but honestly, it turned out to not be a crap fight. Nothing wrong with it because it ended in the first round. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, you're struggling for a co-main event when you've got someone who's 5-3, who's only had one UFC fight and they lost it. And they're going up against someone who is, or at the time was 5-2 and has also not won a UFC fight, has had one UFC fight and lost it. So our co-main event was something like 10 wins, 5 losses, a combined record of 10 wins, 5 losses, and neither of them had actually won a UFC fight before. They'd won Dana White Contender Series fights, but not actual official UFC bouts. Well, that shows how much this card was struggling. God knows how they got a co-main. I think it probably was just names put into a hat and just pulled out randomly. Good for them that they got that extra bit of shine and all that. must be nice for them
Of course. Yeah.
to have that little privilege or what have you. But like you say, it was actually ended up being all right. De Paolo tried to get up from being on the mat and got booted in the face for troubles. So not long after that, couple of follow up strikes, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Let's get on to the main event.
Well, no, you can't yet because there's a couple more things. So Cheyenne Bays, even though it's buys, bought herself a win. No, it's another crap joke.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't get that. Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
She did the arms up like, that's it, I've done enough. And Mark Smith went, you ain't. You've got to do more. She ain't done. But there was a weird bit there. I don't know if you remember. She went down to do the finisher. And as she was doing the finishers, you know, anything, just anything to get rid of the last bit of energy, like in a video game. As she was doing that, I don't know what he was doing. It'll be an official thing, but Mark Smith spun round to whoever was outside the cage and was doing all spinning his finger around like this, sort of doing 360 spins with his finger. Don't know what that is signaling, but he was doing that while De Paolo was getting punched in it. He had his eye off that fight in a very, very crucial moment for quite a long period of time. A long period of time is only a matter of split seconds. But, you know, when someone's in a very compromised position, just been kicked in the face, I found that very strange that he literally was not watching that fight for a bit. I don't know what that was.
I think maybe because they can use replays, stuff like that, maybe he was signifying to the person outside watching the video, double check that to see if she was grounded or not. So maybe he was saying, like, double check that for me as this is going on. And so whoever it was outside, Herb Dean may have, you know, quickly just rewound it and made sure that the knee or the hand wasn't in contact with the floor, so that he didn't, if you like, wave it off.
Yeah.
Kind of announcing someone as the winner when he might needed to have waved it on and waved it off and gone, we need to check something first. We think you've been dirt, and booted someone in the face when they had a hand on the floor. So maybe it's something to do that, just signifying somebody cage side, you know, just need to be aware of something here.
We pick up on the details, you see. That's the thing.
Yeah. You know I mean? Luckily, that fight ended in the first round, because I do think that if it didn't, we probably would have been in for the long haul. And I weren't in the mood for the long haul.
No, you was in the mood for Uriah Hall.
What a brilliant segue. Let's do it.
So this is Uriah, the main event of the evening. Uriah Primetime Hall versus Sean Tarzan Strickland. So you mentioned earlier you was excited to see this fight, you know, or interested or whatever, and I agree. These are two well-known fighters. Uriah Hall's had plenty of fights, and Strickland's, I think, won quite a few in a row and had some very interesting and good performances recently. Yeah. Oh, hello. Really come up. All right. Really come up the ranks. But this fight, what do you think of this fight?
I think that there's not too much to discuss other than the fact that Strickland came out jab heavy, was having a lot of success with his jabs. Uriah Hall was sort of getting some success as well, sort of countering with some jabs as well. But it seemed that Strickland was winning that battle. And Strickland lately, from a guy who seemed quite, I would say, quite inactive in fights when he was at welterweight. You know, he wasn't someone who went in there and pressured people and, you know, got into brawls and this, that, and the other. He seemed to be somebody, a bit of a counter puncher, a little bit too lackadaisical in there and this, that, and the other. For some reason, something's obviously switched in his head. And
maybe he went to the forest with Masvidal.
He might have done, yeah. But when he's got up to middleweight, he just seems to have got very aggressive. He's always on the front foot. He's always looking to engage and have smash ups. And it just seemed to me that after that first round, Uriah Hall has got a bit of a problem, I think, mentally, as in some fights, he appears to mentally switch off or shut down a bit. And it just seemed after the first round, I kind of looked at it and went, I don't know if Hall is going to have trouble getting his head in the game on this one. And he might just sort of cruise through this. Yeah, cruise through, mentally sort of check out of it a bit and go, nah, I can't bother with this, and lose. Now, I don't think he did. I think his cornerman done a good job of rallying him. There's a few times where he definitely tried to put together some sort of fight-ending combinations or get a bit more aggressive and just sort of really kind of bite down on his gum shield, which you don't really generally associate with him. So I think that's a encouraging sign. But it just seemed that Strickland was just a bit too strong, a bit too gritty, a bit too game.
Yeah.
And he just kind of just won every round, didn't absolutely bludgeon him. I think there was one round, I can't remember which one it was, maybe it was the fourth, where I think Strickland had Uriah Hall in a bit of trouble when he took him down to the mat. Hall was clearly in trouble visually on his face. He kind of done a bit of a crying sort of face.
That's right.
And I think there was one round where he had him in a little bit of trouble up against the fence where he was kind of unloading on him. So there was a couple of times where Hall looked like he might just be on the verge of getting stopped, but he always sort of came back with something, always showed something to keep the fight going. But he lost pretty clearly 50-45 in my book. It was a good performance from Strickland, I think, because let's be honest, Hall is a good, devastating striker.
Yeah.
And he didn't use a grapple heavy approach. He didn't just grind him against the fence for 5 rounds in a boring shutout.
To wear him out.
He fought him at his own game and he beat him at his own game. And I think that's for Strickland, that's a big feather in his cap. And he's surely now top 10 ranked. He's beaten a guy who, admittedly in a suspect way, has beaten some, Chris Weidman, but beaten a lot of other good fighters like Musasi and Anderson Silva. So it's a big feather in his cap.
Of course it is.
Puts himself into the mix, really, Strickland.
Well, he does do because he's
from a welterweight also ran, or let's be honest, a welterweight nobody essentially. He's now.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, now he's in a main event. He won it. Yeah,
relevant force at middleweight. So quite a hell of a turnaround for his career, I think.
And they've done a good job on it, right? Because gradually we've seen him getting a bit more active and watching him fight, and he's been winning them. It wasn't weird, this main event. It wasn't weird going, what? Strickland? It's like, no, we've seen him recently, regularly, and he's been doing well. So it definitely made sense, and he got a big name. Because Uriah Hall, he's very, very well known within UFC. Been in it for donkey's years. But Uriah Hall surprised me in this fight, and he didn't surprise me. He didn't surprise me because, to me, he still looked like he mentally, couldn't win the fight, etc. But as you said, he also surprised me because at times where in the past he has just crumbled and gone, oh, forget it, I'm just going to stay on my hands and knees. He didn't. So it didn't surprise me the way he lost the fight, as in he's just didn't do enough. But it did surprise me that he gritted through the fight, which is not one of his. Grit isn't one of his attributes. It's not on his bullet points, is it? And now I can sort of safely say, no, he's added it. He gritted through on someone that was constantly punching him. I don't know why Uriah Hall. Maybe it's down to constantly getting punched by Strickland. So maybe it's all on Strickland's technique and skill and the way he fought. But I just think Uriah Hall's got a lot of tools. I'd probably say, from what I've seen, more tools than Strickland. He just didn't use any tools. To me, he used nothing. I don't understand. He used a tiny bit of boxing. We've seen him knock people out with kicks. We've seen him knock people out with punches. This guy's can be good. And he just didn't do anything. If I'd never seen him fight before, I'd go, why is this guy in this main event? Because he don't really do anything. Now, I don't mind people losing and someone being better than the other person, but he didn't show. The grit was probably the best account of himself. The other things, I think he showed a worse account of himself. His diversity in striking was just nothing. He caught a few jabs and returned some jabs through a couple of right hands, maybe through 2 or 3 kicks or something like that. And he's got a very good striking arsenal, so to speak. And just didn't see any of it. He didn't try anything. So, okay, if you're losing this way on a straight up boxing match and you're losing, he has other things he can try in his martial arts game. He has other things. And I was just waiting for him and nothing happened. All he kept doing was rubbing his face and it was just getting more and more swollen up. I just thought, you got to do something. You got to change it up, or it's a 5-round decision, which it was.
He's one of those sort of infuriating guys in the way, because you kind of go, he's got all the skills in the world. And
yes,
you see him at times and go, this guy should be a world champion, or he should be a top 5 fighter at least, or he should have beaten some of the best guys, and he has beaten some really good guys. There's make no bones about it. But his record's 17-10. And if you ask me now to tell you 10 people in the middleweight division, not all those losses come in the UFC, of course, but 10 people in the middleweight UFC division that are better than him, I'll go, you're joking. I can't even think of many that have got better skill sets than him.
No, I agree.
I don't know. Just look, we've discussed the mental aspect, the grit aspect. Perhaps those are lacking, to such a degree that they cause him to lose certain fights that he would otherwise win. Take the Gastelum fight. It's definitely a fight that at that time I was just like, he should win this fight. Gastelum's really good, but he should win this fight, and he just sort of just got hustled out of it. And if you look at this fight as an example, Strickland threw 472 strikes compared to 273 from Uriah Hall. So it's almost double the strikes. Now, their landing percentage was almost identical.
Oh, well, there you go.
If someone said to me, well, the reason why Strickland outlanded him so much, though, is because he secured a takedown, in each round and just, was firing off from top position. Yeah, I'd go, that's understandable. But it wasn't. This was a striking matchup, something that's supposed to be Uriah Hall's wheelhouse. I think it is his wheelhouse. I think he's amazing at striking, right?
He really is good, yeah.
Really, really good. Yeah, I mean, it's arguably the best in the division.
And punches as well, right?
Yeah.
We know he's got wicked kicks, but he's good at punches as well. He's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And so you look at that and you just go, well, he lost this fight because Strickland threw double the amount of punches. Like I say, the connection rate was about the same. They both landed about 40 to 45% of their strikes. But Strickland just made sure he was throwing, say, whatever it is, 90 strikes around. Uriah Hall was throwing about 45, 50. So...
No, but he's matching skill for skill as well because it's punch for punch. Try doing kick for punch. That's what I'm saying. But it is MMA. Try something else. There was barely any leg kicks, no head kicks, no spinning attacks or whatever, really. There's lots of other things that he can and does do.
Well, he had a lot more diversity in his striking than Strickland did in that fight.
Yeah.
Strickland was essentially all his strikes were head strikes. So he was just
firing
off jabs and right hands, which is what you expect from Strickland. I'm not even sure if I've ever seen him throw a kick.
He threw one in this fight from memory.
Yeah, I mean, he does obviously throw the odd kick here and there, but I mean, it's a real, he's very, what you're going to get with Strickland, right? It's going to be an aggressive guy these days who throws jabs. He's got quite a nice jab, to be fair to him. Throws jabs and throws some right hands and some left hooks after it sometimes. That's kind of it.
Fundamentals, right?
Yeah, it's not rocket science what he does. He's strong, tough, gritty, aggressive, decent gas tank, can obviously grapple when required. But you're going to be getting jabs, rights, left hooks, and not too much else. He doesn't even attack the body, really.
No.
And so I just would have thought that with Uriah Hall's skill set, he could have handled that. And honestly, I think what he got beaten by was the aggression and the work rate of Strickland more than anything else. They're the things that won Strickland that fight, I think. So
absolutely,
there was a couple of times where he landed a few strikes, I think either in round 1 or round 2, and I thought Strickland didn't look like he liked eating that strike. That might make him back off a bit. That might make him less aggressive. But Hall didn't follow it up with enough, or follow it up with anything. And so Strickland just came back and went, "Well, I'll keep beating you up then." So
that's right, yeah, because I'm not getting enough of a threat back. So I can keep pushing forward. And he's a very straight, upright guy, Strickland. I don't want to call him... No, he is a ploddy style fighter. There's no doubt about it, right? He's not really light on his feet. He's just got really good fundamentals. So he's the sort of guy where you could do other stuff, inside leg kicks, body kicks, throw some head kicks at him or whatever. You can definitely count him, push kicks, anything. There's a lot of things you could do on a bloke who is a straightforward fighter because he's not really... He don't look to me like he's cutting angles and slipping punches and all that. By the way, he never had to. He didn't have to. There's no reason for him to do out else apart from to walk straight forward, right? So I don't know how he would have reacted to it. But the point is, Hall didn't put him under any pressure. On the odd occasion where some of these strikes go, and you're absolutely right, the reaction was enough to go, all right, I can do this, bloke. People might think that this isn't difficult for us because obviously we chat loads, but it is difficult for us to talk about someone like Uriah Hall and go, oh yeah, maybe he ain't got the heart or the grit and all that. We're just chatting about it and saying what we see, but it's not that easy to say these things. He's a guy who trains for fighting, turns up in a cage and has a fight with another bloke trying to beat him up. You can tell this bloke, he ain't scared. He's got grit. He's got heart. It's just about what happens under certain situations, under certain amount of pressures or whatever. It's how you react to those things. this is I'm not trying to say these guys, are rubbish in any sense of it at all. He's proper, trains and turns up for fighting, but you can tell the difference, especially with an outspoken coach like this Saif Saud bloke, because you hear a lot from him because his corner chats are good. So they do stand out. But you can tell that he also knows there's something there where, Uriah Hall might just go, oh, I've lost these first 3 rounds, so maybe just forget it for now. They're like, I ain't going to win the rest of it. Because you can tell by the way his coach was talking to him, the things he was saying to him, means that he also knows that he has to work on that aspect of Uriah Hall. I think he's admitted it himself at times.
Well, I think that's very true what you're saying, because, for example, if Darren Elkins was in that corner having a fight against Strickland, I don't think Saif Saud would be saying the same things he was saying to Uriah Hall. He would have been giving technical advice. He'd have been saying, throw this kick, throw that kick, try this jab. But all his chats with Uriah Hall, pretty much exclusively, were trying to G him up for the fight.
Because he knows he's got the skill.
Yeah, exactly. He knows the abilities there. Probably can't even tell him more things to do, because Uriah Hall probably knows better than he does, because Uriah Hall is definitely real at fighting. He's amazing. He's got amazing skills. Probably out of all the middleweights, if I saw all of them training in the gym together and somebody said to me, you can have the skill set of all these top 10 middleweights, who are you choosing? I'd probably end up with Hall. The amazing kicks he do, the good punches he has, the good footwork. He's brilliant. But like you say, all those corner chats were G-up mental corner chats of, come on, put it together. You can do this, blah, blah, blah. It was those chats. It wasn't, you keep getting hit with a jab because your hands are too low. It wasn't none of that stuff. It was nothing technical. It was mental chats. And even Uriah, the way he kind of sat in the corner and slumped in the corner, I was like, oh no, not again. This guy's wicked, and I'm going to see him not live up to what he can do or fight through this. For whatever reason. Now, he might sit at home and go, you guys are chatting rubbish. I ain't got no sort of, whatever you want to call it, confidence issues or anything like this when I'm in there. Strickland was just better than me. He may say that, but honestly, I think Uriah Hall's amazing, skills-wise. Every time he gets in a fight, I go, oh, yeah, but if he gets caught with, some of Uriah Hall's strikes, he's going to fry this guy, It don't matter who it is, Paulo Costa, don't matter who it is. Even Adesanya, I kind of think, but Uriah Hall's well good at striking. If this is just a straight up striking kickboxing fight, Uriah Hall could definitely win. But then he gets in against some of these guys, and he just don't perform. And you go, what the hell's going on here?
He don't do a Nike and just do it. He don't. Right? He gets in there and he's done that. He's done the training. And he's shown up. I don't know if it's the hardest part, but that's a very, very difficult aspect of this. Doing the training and turning up to this stuff. Making weight and turning up. But when he gets in there, it's like, you can do it. I don't know if confidence, you just use the word confidence. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what. It shouldn't be, because he's done blokes with punches and kicks. He's powerful enough. It's not like he has to hit them 1,000 times. He has to hit people once. He's done people with single shots. He's done them all. But it's in this fight, I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's because Strickland was constantly walking him down and all that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's, all these things. I think he's obviously, like you say, he's got grit, heart, toughness, all these things. Like you say, he trains, he's done loads of kickboxing, he does MMA. There is no way
for a living,
this guy's not got the heart, the toughness. Yeah, I think for me, it's simply self-belief.
Yeah.
Doesn't believe in himself enough. Doesn't believe in himself enough to go, I can beat Strickland. I'm just going to beat him up. I'm going to let my hands go. I think he overthinks things in the cage and all that sort of stuff. I think if he was just maybe a bit more of a knucklehead, just somebody who just went in there and threw combinations and strikes without thinking about it, he'd probably be better. I think
he'd probably have better results. Yeah,
he talks himself out of winning fights. He lacks self-belief. I think it's those things, because the ability is definitely there to be a top 5 guy.
You've got the skill, you've got the ability. If you remember, after the corner chats and whatever, he came out in round 5 and had a real good go in round 5. He did. So it weren't really down to, it might have been, maybe he was tired before that and needed to take a round off or something. I don't know. I'm not him. But round 5 was one of his best rounds. For sure. Now, Strickland is also, this is his 5th round. And you've just told me how many strikes he threw, right? So he's going to be tired and all. But Uriah Hall's the one taking those strikes. He's the one with a puffy face and everything. So he's got puffy eyes and a smashed in face, and probably a bit of, maybe, we don't know, lack of confidence, or think I've lost all these rounds so far and I ain't going to win this. He still came out in round 5 and had a good go. And that is probably, in some ways, one of his best performances for the lack of grit, heart, if you like. If you check out that round 5, this is why I said, and you said it at the beginning as well, why he surprised me and he didn't surprise me. I got a typical Uriah Hall performance, but there was aspects in there where we both think, nah, this guy's fixed that, if you want to call it issue or problem, because you saw flashes of it. And round 5 was one of them. I ain't checked out of this fight. I've stood everything that this guy's thrown at me. From memory, I think it might have been his best round. He done good in it, you know? Yeah.
For me, Uriah Hall is one of those guys that I'd never, when you do an accumulator bet or a parlay, I believe it's called in America, there's no way I'll be betting on him, because I just don't know who's going to turn up.
Nah.
There's one day he could turn around and beat a top 5 guy, and then he'd get done by some run-of-the-mill stiff wrestler who's ranked 14th. It's just, I got no confidence in his consistency.
Oh, now you've got no confidence.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Listen, I believe in you. Come on.
It's stuff infectious,
Don't
right?
sell yourself short. I believe in you. You can do this. Now, come on now. You've got all the ability in the world. You've won bets before. Don't sell yourself short. Right. But you've lost your confidence.
Yeah, and it's all down to Uriah Hall. So just to summarize that event, we had fight of the night was Barberina versus Witt. Performance of the night was Cheyenne Buys and Bagdasarian. I think that's pretty harsh on Chris Grits. I think he deserves something out of that performance he put on Grits on the prelims.
I'm sorry, but I agree. It's nothing to do with Cheyenne Buys was crap, because obviously it wasn't crap, was it? It was amazing, right? Kick someone in the head. It was qual. But I think I would have given it to Grits instead of that fight, because, yeah, he's left a bit of him in there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I do really think that counts for something, yeah.
Yeah, really good fight, back and forward, more interesting. I mean, to me, you could make just as good a case for Jared Gooden, choo-choo mother effer, getting the bonus as you could Buys getting it. To me, they're both the same, just kind of, knockout shots that connected and finish up strikes, both in the first round, both early on. But to me, Grits showed a little bit more grit. Simple as that.
I've got something to say before it ends. There was a bit that had like an advert, a clip of a preview of something like a weigh-in show with Dean Thomas, Cormier, Laura Sanko, and it looked absolutely awful. Really trying to be mates.
Drinking beer and crap like that. Yeah, garbage.
It looked overly, we have fun.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It just looks silly. Who can drink the beer the fastest? Who can ride this bicycle and play UFC 4 and all that? Look, maybe it is a fun show, but it was called the Wayne Show, and it just looked like forced mates to me.
It looks shit, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I won't be tuning in. That's for sure.
That is a better way of putting it than I ever could. Right, well, that's the end of the show. UFC Fight Night, Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland, the post-fight show for the main card. That's it. I've got nothing else to say about it. It ended up creating what I think was, reasonable chat. Plenty of things to go over in there, weren't there?
Yeah, it was in the end, yeah.
No worries. I'm looking forward to seeing Grits again, and that ain't no joke.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, good on him.
On the main card, for me, the standout on the prelims was Chavez. For you was probably Kamaka. But on the main card, or on the card as a general, Grits stood out for me, really. Left a good impression. And I went, like you say, good on him. I'll see you for the next one.
Peace. Sick, dude. Sick.
See you later.
Bye-bye.